Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author Angie Kim, and we are talking about her brand new book, just came out April 16th, called Miracle Creek. And I am so excited to talk to you today. I just finished this book this morning and just cried my eyes out. So.
Oh, that's so great
fun.
to hear. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm so delighted to be here.
Well, first of all, I can't believe this is your debut novel. Can't believe it. I mean, it is so, and out of all the blurbs that I read on books coming out, I mean, so much has been written about this book. And then I get to Scott Turow saying he couldn't put it down. And I was like, oh my gosh, if that's not the biggest compliment ever, like, I look at him as like the, trial book. If I want to read a good book,
completely.
Trial.
Completely.
Yeah,
I'm such a huge fan, and in fact, I even loved his writing even before I read Presumed Innocent, because he wrote this book called 1L, which is about his experience at Harvard Law School, which really should have dissuaded me from going there. But instead, I'm like a total masochist or something. I don't know exactly what's wrong with me. And so I read it, and I was like, oh, my God, this is where I want to go to law school. And so he's really shaped my life in so many ways. And he's actually, he and I are sharing the stage in just a few weeks. We are speaking to each other in conversation at Wordplay Festival in Minneapolis. So I'm really excited.
Oh, that is so awesome! I am so happy for you. Like, I can't even tell you.
Thank you.
Because as I was, I was just like, wow. I mean, this cover. I saw this cover about 2 months ago, and I was like, whoa. Now that's a cover. Okay.
I love this cover so much. I love it so much. And the cover designer is Na Kim. And so when I found out that was her name, the Angie Kim and Na Kim, I was just like, oh, this was just meant to be. I love this so much.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and then you're like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, this book stands up to its cover. Like, the cover is that amazing that it's like, you can't walk past this cover without looking at it. Like, you just can't. The colors are just so beautiful. And so, okay, so let's talk about this story, because it is such a great story. And I'm going to let you do it, because I might sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, and you know what you're talking about. So
Sure.
I'll let you tell everybody about the story.
Okay, so in a nutshell, Miracle Creek is a literary courtroom drama about a Korean immigrant family and a young single mother who's on trial for murdering her 8-year-old son, who's on the autism spectrum. And so that's it in a nutshell. And what happens is that Miracle Creek is actually the name of a fictional town in Virginia where the Yu family, this Korean immigrant family, settles. And they have a business around something called the Miracle Submarine, which is not a real submarine. It's an actual medical device, hyperbaric oxygen therapy chamber, and it's also known as HBOT for short. And what that is, it's a real thing, and it's a pressurized chamber that you enter into, and you receive and breathe in 100% oxygen. And it's sort of the standard hospital treatment for things like carbon monoxide poisoning and gangrene and things like that. But in the novel and also in real life, it's an experimental treatment for things ranging from infertility and Lyme disease to things like cerebral palsy and autism. And one day in the novel, 4 patients and their caregivers are inside, and somebody deliberately sets fire by the oxygen tank outside, which catches fire, explodes, and kills and injures many of the patients and the people inside. And so then there's a trial to discover who did this and why and how. And so in one sense, the novel is a how and who and why done it. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm hoping that it's a device to allow the readers to take a deep dive into the lives of these groups of people that are highlighted in the book, both the Korean immigrant family who are living in isolation in rural America and the desperate need for connection they have, and at the same time, the parents of these children who are the patients with chronic illnesses and special needs, and what that is like as they sacrifice their lives to care for their children, and the kinds of need for the longing for connection that comes with that life as well. So it's sort of a parallel.
Absolutely. And, I thought you did such an amazing job. There are so many relationships in this book. And, we have the husband and wife relationship. We have the mother and daughter, which I specifically enjoyed since I have two daughters. And
oh, wow. Yeah. I don't have any daughters, but I am a daughter. So, yeah.
Right. You are a daughter.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
my heart just went out to Young when she was trying to connect with her daughter, Mary. And can you say the Korean name for Mary?
Sure. It's her Korean name is Mehi. And her American name that they sort of chose, the name that's the closest, is Mary. And Mary is, she's 11 when she moves to the United States with her mother. And she and her mother's relationship is very much modeled on mine with my mom, because I moved from Korea to the outskirts of Baltimore when I was 11. And she's a huge brat, just like I am sure that I was. No, because I felt really abandoned, and I think Mary does in the novel as well, because, you have this very close relationship as an only child with your mother, who's a stay-at-home mom in Korea, and then you come to the United States, and my mom and Young in the novel had to work day and night in this dangerous part of downtown Baltimore in a grocery store that was bulletproofed. Mm-hmm. And so they both basically lived at the store, and and the hours were so long that they ended up actually sleeping at the store. And Mary in the novel and I in real life lived with another family, and and I think when that happens, you realize intellectually, even at that age, that my mom is doing this for me, my parents are doing this for me, and they're making a huge sacrifice for my life. It's not like they want to just, never see me. But I think, the sort of immature, undeveloped brain part sort of irrationally discounts that and sort of says, you know what, I'm going to blame my mom for this. And she shouldn't have done this, and it's her fault for bringing us to this foreign land where I feel like I am a foreigner and I'm inferior because I don't speak the language and I don't know anyone, and and so I rebelled in the same way that Mary did as well. So yeah, it's definitely that part is probably the most true to life in the novel. Yeah.
Yeah, and I, I was laughing because I really like the way you wrote Mary. I think all of us as women can connect because we've all been that 11-year-old bratty girl that, and it's almost like when you have daughters, you almost forget that you were that. Like
exactly. Yep, absolutely.
So
how old are your daughters? Are they around that age?
Now 28 and 20, soon to be 28, soon to be 24. So they're older, and my oldest daughter has a daughter, and which I always smile about. So
wow.
But the daughter is that connection. Like I just felt Young's heart when she was trying to connect, but then you feel Mary. You did such a great job with their relationship. I loved it. I really did.
Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot.
Oh, yeah. So when I went back this morning, so what I did was I finished the book, and then I go back and I reread that first chapter because I love where you start me off, right?
Yeah.
Even though I read it very quickly, you still forget, like, where were we,
Yeah.
And so when I got to the end paragraph of the first chapter, I just burst into tears. I was like, I lost it because you ended so beautifully. We do no spoilers here, but it's so much more. It needs more because I know where you were headed, and You did such a great job. And I'm going to read this first sentence, the first part of the book, because I had seen this everywhere. People are just quoting this everywhere. And I was like, this is my favorite beginning this year of a book, this one.
Oh,
right
thank you so much. Okay.
Okay. My husband asked me to lie. Not a big lie. He probably didn't even consider it a lie, and neither did I at first. And that is what, like, I read that, and I'm like, I have to read the book. Like, I got to know. Like,
I'm so glad.
Did you go back? Like, was that the first thing you thought about with this?
No. So that was not always the first line of the book. For the first, like, couple of, maybe just the first version of the book, the very first draft, it was a different opening line. And the opening line was the pounding. And it was something like, and it was like the pounding. It's the pounding I remember most. And it was sort of an homage, a rhythmic homage to The Sweet Hereafter by Russell Banks, which starts that novel starts with a school bus accident, and it's sort of an exploration of, you know, how that came to be through 4 different POVs. And so I really read that book and sort of tried to model some aspects of my book around that because I love it so much. And that book starts with a dog. It was a dog I saw for sure. And so it was sort of like a rhythmic homage to that. Yeah. And then when I wrote the book, you know, I didn't know who had done it, or why or how when I started writing the book. So when I finished it and I knew for the first time what the book was about and what had happened and all that, then I actually went through in earnest and sort of said, okay, is this the right opening line? And then at that point, my husband asked me to lie. That line just popped into my head, and I just knew that I had to use it. So I ended up rewriting everything in the beginning to accommodate that line, but I thought it was worth it. So,
well, you know what? I always love those books where you think you know what happened, but then you're completely wrong. But
yes.
But even if somebody does figure out what happened, it doesn't matter because the writing and the ride you take us on, like if somebody is smarter than me and they can figure this out,
right.
It's still the, you know, the ending you won't get it. You know, you won't understand it until you get there. And I love that because sometimes with whodunit and it's all about the whodunit and then it's like you don't care, but that's not the case here because I didn't figure it out anyway. But even if I did, I'd want to know like what happened. And
I also think and I think that whodunit, it's interesting because, you know, in any given book, unless you introduce a completely new character at the very last minute, you know, there's only a finite number of suspects, you know, that could be. You know, it could be the narrator, it could be like the narrator. There's just, you know, there's only so many people in the book. So at some point in any whodunit, you know, the list of people that could have done it actually, I find as a reader, goes through my head. And so, you may be right at some point or another. But the whole point with this book that I tried to make it is that even if I told you in the very beginning of the book who did it, how would that have been possible given everything that you're hearing from all of the various characters that you hear from? So if you take them at their word that what they're telling you is correct and true, then, and you know, a lot of the characters in my novel will tell you, well, I said this to that person, but I was actually lying, and here's the real truth. So if you take them at their word on all that, then how is it possible that whoever you think did it, did it? So I like to think of my novel as more of a howdunit rather than a whodunit in a strict way. Yeah, I really like that. Okay, so you're out there. I mean, I saw you're promoting it everywhere. I'm going to put your website down there so everybody can look and look to see where you're going to be. But while you're doing all this, I mean, this is such an exciting time for you. It's your debut novel. Are you going to be writing something, or are you going to wait till like it's all over and then sit down and write another one? So I have already started writing a second novel. I'm not very far along. It always takes me a really, really long time to sort of get a proper start. But I do think that I have, sort of the beginnings of a good first chapter, and I sort of basically know what the situation is. Just like with Miracle Creek, I have no idea what's going to happen. And there is sort of a mystery element to that as well, and I have no idea what the resolution is or who did what or anything like that. So, but I am definitely thinking about it and it's churning in the back of my mind. And sort of the ideas are marinating even as I'm doing all the stuff for Miracle Creek. So it's really fun because as I'm hearing from the readers and reviewers about what parts of Miracle Creek resonated with them most and things like that, it's actually helping me to, formulate, and maybe refine what are the things that I'm thinking about for the second novel. So it's been really great.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah. I am so happy that I got to, talk to you and read this book. I can't wait to see what you do next because I didn't want this to end it, so I know I'm going to have to wait a while, but that's okay.
Yes, I'm a very slow writer. I'm such a slow writer, so yes. And also I have, I have two kids who are in high school and one 10-year-old. So the one's in high school, there's all that college stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be slow going for a while.
That's very fun. Well, everyone, I'm gonna put the IndieBound link below the video because you can go and support your local bookstore. I'm gonna put the Amazon link so you can get it today if you want it absolutely today. And
right.
I will put the website and all of her social links so you can find Angie, and you know where to find me when you're done with the next one because I will talk to you. I can't wait to read it, and it was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we'll talk soon, and you have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.